Hey, Greg.
Hey, Tim.
How's it going?
It's going great. You?
Good, good. So normally when we start an episode, we'll kind of catch up on what's going on in our lives. But I think this episode, we might just want to get right into it. You think so?
Yeah, definitely.
So, we're at this age where all these great movies that we grew up with are starting to have anniversaries. And being that it's Christmas, there is a huge movie that is celebrating its 35th anniversary.
Yep.
And so at Latch-Key Dads, we definitely want to celebrate that in a big way. And we are so very lucky to have one of the original cast members with us. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacations. You know her as Ruby Sue. Ellen Latzen, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yeah. 35 years?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty amazing, right?
That's crazy.
I know. How do you think I feel?
So we thought it'd be fun. We like to celebrate all the great stuff that we enjoyed when we were kids. We'd like to take you back to 1989. It's Christmas. What was the gift in that time frame? It doesn't have to be 89 specifically, but do you remember one of those gifts that you really, really wanted as a kid back then?
Yeah. God. I think one that I really wanted that I ended up getting was the pogo ball.
Okay.
Yeah, the pogo ball was super fun, and I don't think I got it for Christmas, but a boyfriend of my mom's actually got it for me. I think he was probably trying to garner some favor.
Yeah, those were super fun. I think my sister had one, and we would all steal it from her, of course, and bounce around on it. So that's awesome.
I think we called them hippity hops as kids, right? Because that was the handle. And
No, like an actual pogo ball. It was like an inflatable ball on top, an inflatable ball on the bottom, and then it had like a plastic
like a
thing
ring around it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you would cup the top ball between your feet and you bounce. Yeah.
I guess in Jersey we didn't have those
I
things.
guess in Westchester, New York, we did.
Very cool.
I know what I'm getting Greg for Christmas this year.
Right.
Very cool. Now I know Greg and I, we always joke that we always wanted like the G.I. Joe hovercraft, like the massive 6-foot thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't get it.
Yeah.
No. A little too expensive, I bet.
Yeah.
So we read that your foray into acting involved an open casting call in a local paper. Your mom took you, and it seems like the rest is history. Can you share more about the story of how you got into acting?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in Westchester, New York, which is like the suburbs outside of New York City. And my mom happened to be looking through the paper, the local paper, and there was an article about an open casting call for girls ages 6 to 8, no acting experience necessary. They, sort of listed the attributes that they were looking for in said girl. Mm-hmm. And my mom was reading all this, and she said, Ellen fits the bill. And we'd never thought about acting, but I was a gregarious kid. And so she said, do you want to try this? And I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't understand the gravity of it, but, it sounded like fun. And so we went to the audition. I had just turned 6 at that point, and she picked me up from camp. And she brought the ugliest dress ever for me to get out of my like dirty clothes and into. And it was at the, I believe the high school of like a local school, the gymnasium of a local high school near where I lived. And we walk in, and the stands were full of, as I have always famously said, like little John Benets and their moms, and
the hair, and
they're definitely frizzing it up and doing all the things that one would do in 1986. And I had this like short hair and this ugly little dress on, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way that I'm gonna get anywhere with this. And they had to take a Polaroid because I didn't have a headshot, and so went into the casting call, and it was a group casting call, and there were like 7 or 8 girls, and they asked us individual questions and group questions, and they liked me enough to call me back, and I kept getting called back, and I eventually got the part.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then from there, that first experience of being on a set, what was like at 6 years old? Was that just overwhelming? Was it fun? Was it scary?
It was natural for me. Yeah. My mom always said that she never saw me more focused than when I was on set. And it was my natural habitat, and who knew?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that at times it was overwhelming, but generally I was a kid that could kind of go with the flow, and, it's just like, okay, this is what we're doing. Cool. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
With the success of Fatal Attraction, did your mom get you an agent? Is that what the next step was, or?
Yep. So after that, I was like, okay, well, this is a viable thing. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure. I'd have to ask her, but I'm sure that agencies probably solicited us, because this was this hot new kid on the scene and, they'd want to kind of jump on the talent.
course,
And so I signed with a pretty reputable agency in New York City, and my mom acted as my manager. And they were called J. Michael Bloom, and I think they were based in New York and LA. And so, yeah, they represented me for the entirety of my career.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that first film, Fatal Attraction, pretty intense, especially for a 6-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Did you wait X number of years before you actually saw the film, or did they show it to you at that young age? When did you finally see it?
So the premiere I spent in the limo outside, and then as everybody came out, I went on the red carpet and rubbed elbows. But then my mom wanted me to be able to see it in the theater because, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so she took me, but having seen the movie already and read the script and being familiar with the storyline, she knew when to take me out for quote unquote popcorn.
Smart.
And, right. So we went out for popcorn a lot. And I don't know that we actually ate much popcorn, but we were just kind of hanging out in the lobby a bunch. Yeah. But yeah, so I saw it when it was in the theater. And I would say that I was maybe 11 when I saw it the first time, which is still pretty young for a movie of that caliber, but I, was a pretty grown-up kid.
And did you have, even at 11, do you remember having a surprised reaction to the film being as intense as it was, or was it more just it seemed like it followed the script and you expected most of what you saw?
I couldn't read when the movie came out, so I don't know that I ever actually read the script.
That's true.
But it was explained to me, and so I knew kind of the basic storyline. And honestly, I don't remember what my reaction would have been. I think it probably was really racy and a little scary, but I also at that point, because Fatal Attraction had been around for a long time, knew what the reaction was to the film from the masses. Sure. And, therefore it probably was okay, well, so this is it.
Yeah.
So you didn't learn about the rabbit's fate until you were 11?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, that may have been revealed to me at some point later, but that's a good question. I don't recall, but probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very intense start to your career. Mm-hmm. Then the film that we introduced you with, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, obviously a very different tone.
Oh, yeah.
You did get one line in it, though, that it was for, again, a young child, a special line. Did your mom have any problems with you having a line where you swore or anything like that?
No. And I actually said shit in Fatal Attraction, too, so... In the very beginning, when they're going out to the release party for the book or whatever, and the babysitter, who's played by Jane Krakowski, I don't know if you know who Jane. Yeah. So she plays the babysitter. She shows up, and just prior to that, Anne Archer is doing her makeup in the bathroom, and she drops something in the sink, and she goes, "Oh shit." And then immediately it cuts to me walking down the hall to go answer the door for the babysitter. And I go, shit. And then what you don't hear is Adrian Lyne in the background going, "Louder, Ellen." And then I go, shit. So I had practice. Yeah. And not only that, but I mean, there was cursing happening in my house growing up. So it was a little more loose. But no, I don't think my parents had much of a hard time with me saying that line.
Well, and this is just off the cuff of that, but I know with our daughter, when she was very little, there was those moments where they're little, they're just learning how to talk, and occasionally they would hear something, and the first time she said something or my son said something, I was like, oh, need to dial that back a little bit. Has that happened with you at all?
Yeah, my daughter is already saying, oh shit. Oh shit, she's 19 months old, and I encourage it, actually. I called my dog a fuck face the other day, and she goes fuffé. I'm like, cool.
They're like little sponges.
They are. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I have twins.
Excellent.
Yeah, and they're in college now. And but when they were little, about that age, we got them these dump trucks. And they're pretty big. They're almost, they're 2 feet big. Mm-hmm. And they would grab the sides of it and run around, and they would get so excited they would scream, "Dump truck." But that's not what it sounded like.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. So coming back around to Christmas Vacation, obviously, the cast is extremely well known just because of, obviously, they've been in other films, but Christmas Vacation comes back every year and, everyone quotes it and knows it. Have you stayed in touch with any of the original cast?
So the only cast member that I have consistently been in touch with and I'm in touch with now is Cody Berger, who played Rocky, my brother. He lives down in Tallahassee and has sort of gone into obscurity just like me, but has a family. His daughter is graduating high school this year, and he's enjoying his life. And yeah, we talk a few times a year, and we'll text, and we call each other. He calls me Big Sis. I call him Little Bro. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
With such a big cast and lots of kids, right? Johnny Galecki and,
Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis.
Yeah.
Was it fun as a little kid? Like, were they fun kids to just...
Yeah, I mean, Juliette was kind of a wallflower. She did her own thing. She turned 16 while we were on set. So, I mean, a teenager at that age probably isn't really like wanting to be hanging out with some of the, littler kids. But Johnny, we spent a lot of time with. His siblings were there as well. My older sister was there. And we all were staying at the Oakwood Apartments. I don't know if you guys have heard of they're infamous. It's like a pied-à-terre community. Mm-hmm. And it's in Burbank. It's right up the way from Warner Brothers Studio. And many, many famous people have stayed there over the years. That's where Corey Haim died. So that's where we were living. And Elijah and Zach Wood were also staying there at that point. And so we were friends with them. And Zach is still a good friend of mine to this day. And Jennifer Love Hewitt was staying there at the same time. So, there were a lot of kids around at whatever point for my sister and I to run around with. And yeah, I mean, it was a blast. Cody was from the Valley. I believe he lived in the Valley. And so, he would go home every day, but, we would like go have sleepovers there and hang out with his mom and his grandmother. And so, yeah, it was awesome. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. Were there any on-set mishaps from Christmas Vacation that you might recall, like something not going right, but it was just a blast for everybody?
Well, let's see. What I would say is there were a couple of mishaps for sure, like when in the squirrel scene at the end when he opens the door and the squirrel jumps out and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is there. The stunt woman actually got bit by one of the dogs, which is not very funny, but that was a mishap. And Chevy had a sort of unfortunate moment with us. There was a point at which, I don't remember which scene it was, but Jeremiah Chechik, the director, wanted to get a certain reaction out of him. And so one of the cast members came up with the idea of giving everyone except for Chevy, we were all in the living room, and then Chevy was going to like come around the corner and see everybody. And they gave us all these little fart makers, which are, like had the plastic top with the little hole in it and the rubber bottom where you like, go. And we all thought it was hilarious. And so he comes around the corner, and then at whatever point we all go, and he flipped out. He did not like it so much. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there were more. I wish that I remembered more. Like I remember a lot.
Yeah.
But that specific question, I don't know. I don't know if there were any like really hilarious outtakes that. Although I will say that the bingo line that Randy Quaid says when we're at the top of the mountain and before the whole sledding at the end of the sledding scene, that was ad-libbed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He seems like a really fun guy. I don't know if it's just the persona of Uncle, Cousin Eddie.
I mean, a lot of people ask me, especially given where Randy has kind of gone later in life personally, but they ask me like, what do you remember about working with Randy? And I don't really recall having so much interaction with him. He played my dad, but he was a little less social, I would say, than, maybe some of the other cast members were. But, I mean, he was a nice guy. I do remember that.
Cool. I forgot all about that stuff about his personal life. You just said that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He's had some issues.
Yeah.
So everyone watches the movie, it seems like. Mm-hmm. I assume you watch it every year as well.
Oh, yeah.
So do you find that you quote lines from the movie. Like, I mean, for us, like, you know, you want something you can be proud of, don't you, Russ? Sure you do.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the reasons why it's so beloved is because it's such a quotable movie, and not even just at Christmas time. I mean, throughout the year, there's you know the one line that I probably say more than anything is "Bend over and I'll show you." that's in my lexicon for sure.
Yeah, I'm fixing newel posts all the time.
Oh, right? Yeah, fix the newel post.
Every Thanksgiving, save the neck for me, Clark.
Yeah.
It's so quotable.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It is.
So besides Christmas Vacation, which I guess obviously is your favorite Christmas movie of all time, do you have any other favorites, ones that you watch every year?
Yeah, so Christmas Vacation is not my favorite. It's in my top 3, I'd say. But classically, my favorite is Christmas Story. That's, you know, I grew up with that, and it was on TV so much too. You know, like TBS for decades did the 24 hours, and then you know they got hip to doing that with other movies like mine. But yeah, I mean, it just and my mom loved that movie so much because she grew up in Cleveland, and which is where the movie was filmed, I'm pretty sure, and it was just so remnant of her upbringing that it held such a special place in her heart. So that was conducive to my watching it a lot, and it's just so good. It's a Wonderful Life, of course, is, I mean, it's so classic. And actually I did a podcast episode with Zuzu, the actress who played Zuzu. She's still around. And but what I would say is like my most favorite Christmas movie is Emma Daughter's Jug Band Christmas. You guys know about Emma Daughter?
Of course, I have it on DVD.
Yes, it's Tim. Are you unfamiliar? Or
I am unfortunately unfamiliar. Yeah.
You should familiarize yourself. It's for those of you that don't know. It's a Muppet movie. It's a Jim Henson piece, and it's just I can't wait to watch it every year. It's just so good.
Well, it'll definitely be at the top of my watch list.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Although Muppet Christmas Carol is pretty good too.
Yeah, it's okay. That's a little later on.
Yeah,
you know, I think
much
for
later.
me, I because I was, I don't know, probably like a teen when that came
Yeah.
out. I was less interested in it than some of the other classic Muppet movies, but it is very
And that's
good.
one. It's hard to find too. The Emmett and Otter one. It's not.
Yeah,
as
well,
out
you know,
there.
they stream it. I think it was on Peacock last year, so they might have it
okay.
again. Yeah, I used to have it on DVD, and then it, you know, went away somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wherever it is, I will definitely purchase it if I don't have access to it.
You mentioned DVDs. Greg and I were just talking about how like we're part of the generation where we still feel like we need a tangible something, and like just having it digitally and stuff. Do you find you're part of that? Like you still want to hold on to like the stuff, or
I do. Oh yes, definitely. You know, I come from a pack rat, so there's definitely that tangible thing that I want to hold on to. Although I really try to like buck that a lot of times. But yeah, as far as like, I don't really have my DVDs anymore, but I do have all my CDs. Like my CD book, I just will never get rid of that, even though they're all scratched, and I'll probably never listen to them again. But you know, it's a beloved item.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, I put all my concert tickets in the sleeves, and so they're great touchstones. You know, like
That's a good. I never thought about that. That's a good idea.
yeah, it's so fun to like be like, oh, I remember the show, and yeah.
Well, what if you have like multiple concert tickets? I guess they have
I'll
multiple
just-
albums,
yeah.
maybe, right?
Or sometimes there'll be multiple in one. You know,
There you go.
One sleeve.
Yeah, but those things get really hard to close.
Yeah.
The jewel cases, right?
I wasn't as organized as Tim, but I did keep all mine in like a bag. So like, we're just like, oh look, this was Chili Peppers in '93, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I had all of my stubs as well, and then they got lost in the shuffle over the years, which is heartbreaking for me. But now I have a different box from all of the ones that I have seen since that. So
Very cool.
Yeah, we've done a few episodes where we'll exchange our tickets and we'll pull them out and
Oh,
we'll
okay.
talk about them.
Random.
So, yeah, that's pretty fun.
don't get them mixed up.
Yeah, no, we're very
I'm
diligent.
sure.
about
Yeah,
it.
you're like, give that back.
Nirvana is not happening again.
Oh,
I need that back.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Who saw Nirvana?
I did. They actually played in the Valley, Stable
Really?
Arena, right over
Wow.
at Lehigh University. And
What year was that?
that was in '93, I think.
Wow.
It was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after Nevermind.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I saw Soundgarden there, and like a ton. There was a great little window in time where they got all these, all the bands that we loved during that time.
My husband would salivate hearing that.
Yeah. No, I did see the Spin Doctors too. You may not be as excited about
That
that
was
one.
his very first concert was the Spin Doctors.
Was it at Lehigh?
No,
Oh, okay.
it must have been somewhere in Jersey. That's where he's from.
Okay.
But,
Because I was going to say we might have been at the same show
maybe.
then.
Well, although, I mean, it could have been. I'll ask him.
Yeah. That's cool.
Back at a time where you could see a really good band for $17.50,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just having that conversation with my dad that like when we were kids, we could get a job, put enough gas in our car, buy the ticket, and go to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like for my daughter, like she went to Taylor Swift. I'm like, there's no way that
How did she afford it?
Well, it was a gift.
Okay.
But yeah, like that idea that like she's working at like the local, inn,
Mm-hmm.
bussing tables. Even if she saved the entire summer, she still would have been hard pressed to get enough money to.
I wouldn't
to
be
go.
able to afford those
Yeah,
tickets.
no, it's truly. And she kind of lucked out. Like it was one of those lottery things where she
Oh,
got a ticket
wow.
at like almost face value as opposed to the exorbitant.
Yeah, the
prices.
$10,000 ticket price.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Taylor Swift is not really a good example of what
Yeah,
we're talking about.
exactly,
But yeah, she's on the higher end of the
Yeah,
spectrum, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I will say that, I did take my son likes rock. He's a classic rock guy.
Oh, good.
And Aerosmith went around for their final tour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you got to see Aerosmith.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool. And the tickets, I'm not going to say what they cost, but and so you're at the show and it's almost like in the back of your mind, you're like, this is costing so much money, and you almost don't enjoy the show because you're like, this cost,
Yeah.
so much money.
Well, and
but
like the concessions and everything else, and
got to get a T-shirt.
yeah, just Ticketmaster really they just siphon the money from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on to lighter
Yeah.
things.
Right.
You also appeared in an episode of Family Ties, which is
Mm-hmm.
really cool, and it was also a Christmas episode.
Yep.
Any memories from your episode?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when my mom got the call that they wanted me to appear because I was, the special guest star, and it was right after Fatal Attraction came out, and so I think that's why, they had this episode coming up, and they said, oh, this kid is hot right now, so we we wanted to be on, and of course it was one of my most favorite shows, and in 1987, that was like right at the height. Or at least, not quite at the pinnacle, but that was when Michael J. Fox was just, at his most famous. And I was thrilled. I mean, I think I started jumping up and down in my mom's bed when she told me. And so that was the first time that I went out to California was for the filming of that. Okay. And it was at Paramount Studios. And I remember walking around the lot and seeing Worf in his full
very cool
costume, just like cruising around. And I didn't know. I mean, I may have been somewhat familiar with Star Trek at that point, but I was just like, whoa, where am I? And it was interesting because, so at that point, that was probably the third professional job that I had done. So I did Fatal Attraction, and really soon after that, I did a movie called Mr. North with Anthony Edward, which I've not even seen. I had, like a really bit part, and I think that they dubbed my voice, and, it was like some British girl doing it or something. But so I did that. So I had done a couple of movies, but then this was a new medium for me. And it definitely was a new thing being in front of a live studio audience. And so I sort of tongue-in-cheek refer to that episode as my worst performance ever because I just didn't know how to kind of keep a straight face. I'd deliver a line and the audience would laugh and I'd be like, trying not to smile. But it also was a blast. I mean, working with Tinny Others and Brian Bonsall and, everybody was so sweet. And my sister and I just had such a good time. And yeah, I think that we had Michael J. Fox sign a T-shirt and a headshot and everything, and it was awesome.
Yeah, because that was like Back to the Future. I mean, he was huge.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That was between 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because 1 came out in 85, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And then 2 came out in 89, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Teen Wolf. I love Teen Wolf.
Totally. The secret of my success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
all the
many.
things.
Yeah. So around that same time, you did some off-Broadway as well then, and Macaulay Culkin,
Yep.
before Macaulay was the Home Alone, phenom as well.
Yep. So the casting director for Fatal Attraction and also for Christmas Vacation, Billy Hopkins, he worked with another woman named Risa Brayman, but Billy, he directed this off-Broadway play called Buster B and Olivia, and it was part of what they called a festival, so there were like 2 or 3 plays that were all happening during this festival, and Buster B and Olivia was one of them. And it was basically, so the narrator was Olivia as an adult. Okay. And she was, talking about her experiences as a child with her best friend, Buster B. And so Macaulay Culkin was Buster B, and I was Olivia. And we did that for a couple months. And it was in New York City, off Broadway. But yeah, I mean, became very close with Mac and his family. And we stayed in touch over the years, although we sort of lost touch after Home Alone 2, but I went to go see him on the set of that. But yeah, Buster B and Olivia was super fun. That was my first, I think that must have been after Family Ties.
Okay.
And I mean, the place couldn't have held more than 75 people. So it was a
small.
really, very intimate. But that was my first foray into theater.
Yeah. Now, have you found that you enjoy Broadway now, or is that sort of just, it was a part of your young life and you're not really
you mean
Broadway? Just like as
a spectator?
You enjoy Broadway?
I mean, totally.
Yeah.
It's as a craft, it's amazing, because it's totally different than sitting in front of a camera with a mic.
Yeah.
You have to use your entire person in order to get the point across. I mean, I guess these days they're mic'd up probably, but classically, you would just, whether you were just speaking or singing, it was a whole different ballgame. And I went on to do Broadway in 92. I did a play called Four Baboons Adoring the Sun at Lincoln Center, which was a John Guare play. He was the author of House of Blue Leaves and, oh God, what was the other play that he did? I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was not a musical. It was a serious play. And for a long time, I said that was my favorite type of acting was theater. Because like I said, it was just a completely different thing. You're performing in front of an audience. You're doing it up to 2 times a day.
Yeah, the intensity seems to be
it is
really grueling in a lot of ways.
Totally, but I loved the challenge. I mean, it was a challenge that I really enjoyed and sort of stepped up to the plate for. These days, I don't know if I would feel the same, but yeah, I mean, theater. I can't remember the last play I would have seen, but. Musicals and regular plays. I mean, I do enjoy watching them very much.
Yeah. Both my daughter, his son are both his older sons too, very involved in theater at school.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And just seeing it from on a much smaller scale at high school level, but the amount of commitment and time and effort. And then in the finality of it for them, it's 2 or 3 shows versus when you're on Broadway. I mean, I've heard
8 shows a week, right?
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's kudos to you for doing it.
Well, thank you.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You stole my question. I was going to ask you which medium you like best, but
well, there you go. That was 12 and 14-year-old Ellen talking, but 44-year-old Ellen is probably film. I would say, yeah. I mean, I did television as well. That was not in front of a studio audience, and so that was similar to film. But there's an intimacy there too, because it's you and the cast and the crew, and it's just, I don't know, the energy I think that one feels when they're on set, and the focus that one needs to have in order to be in front of the camera, and to be shooting for many, many hours in a day. I mean, it takes a lot, but from what I remember, because it's been a minute, yeah, I would say film is my favorite.
So on the heels of favorites, again, as a child and now, music, I'm sure, is probably a big, I mean, as an artist in the theater, music is probably a big part of it as well. Do you remember any of the music that you were most into back then, music you're into now?
It's funny because when I was on the way over here, I mean, music is an extremely important part of my life. It's the tie that binds my husband and me, and it just, for as long as I can remember, I've always loved music and live music and everything. But I was listening to something, and then I said, I want to move on. And I said, I'm meeting with these guys. I should listen to something sort of apropos. And I had started a Spotify playlist a couple years ago called Flashback, which, are just like any of the songs that I would kind of like hear out in the world that would take me back to a certain place. And I would add it to that. And mostly like, I'd say late 80s and 90s. And I didn't get so far through the playlist by the time I got here, but Two of Hearts was one of the songs on there, and God, I can't even remember what the other ones were, but so yeah, I mean, I was listening to so much stuff growing up. My mom listened to classic rock. She was that was her. That was what as far as what was on the radio, yes, but the bands that she loved most, which are then became two of my most favorite bands and remain to this day, are Talking Heads, and she loved Dire Straits, but Pink Floyd.
You're talking to a huge Floyd fan.
Oh, right on. My husband and I just saw the last show of
Gilmore?
Yeah.
I am so jealous.
At MSG.
Okay.
MSG, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But they talk about expensive tickets.
I know.
But yeah, so I remember growing up, and we would be in the car, my sister and I, with my mom, and she would have, because it's like my car, my music, and as kids, we're like, oh, can you turn on Z100 or whatever it was. Did you have Z100 where you were growing up?
We heard it because it was out in New York, right? Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so that was like the contemporary music of the time, and my mom was like, tough shit, you're gonna listen to what I listen to. And we would complain about it, but secretly I would really like it.
Yeah.
But when I had control over the radio for myself, I was listening to Z100 and all the. I mean, I loved new wave, and I loved like hip hop, and I mean, I really had a very eclectic taste growing up, which has served me as an adult. I don't know that there's as much good music coming out these days as there was when we were growing up. But
spoken like a true Gen Xer.
Yeah, I know, totally.
It is funny though, like, we talked a little bit about it, like the old CD collections and that they're scratched. And, I've said to my kids so many times, they're living in there's technology is what it is. There's good and bad and all of it, but they're growing up in this age of Spotify and other services where they can listen to anything. And, Greg and I have talked, like, there's times where our kids will be listening to something. We're like,
how do you know?
I love that they're listening to that, but how did they find it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there are positives and negatives about that experience, right? I mean, when Spotify first came out, it took me a minute to, maybe like a year to really kind of like delve into it, just because first of all, I didn't want to pay for it.
Exactly.
And secondly, once I kind of like understood how the algorithm worked, then it was like game on. And it came at a time where I was kind of going through a musical renaissance for myself, because I'd been coming off of this like decade or two where I said all the music that comes out now just sucks. It's terrible. But then I had this way to kind of go down all these different rabbit holes and discover all this music that I never knew existed and never knew that I would like.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's really amazing. But at the same time, the kids of today, they miss out on the experience of like going to the record store and buying a record or a CD or a tape or whatever it is when it comes out, and being really excited and listening to it 1,000 times, having to like put your
liner notes.
Yeah, totally. And, and like having to stick your pencil back in, to wind up if something happened to the tape. And, there's something really special about that too. Yeah. And so the immediacy of the music these days just really sort of can detract from the overall experience, I feel. Yeah. Because, there's something to be said about like sitting and doing your time with an actual physical album.
Yeah. And listening to it from beginning to end.
Totally.
Instead of a track here.
Yeah. I mean, like even CDs, that was groundbreaking technology where you could just like press a button and then advance to the next song. But, you were still kind of, I don't know, you were involved with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of like that next track kind of feeling, like, I mean, Green Day's Dookie, for what it's worth. I was in art school and I had this project that I worked on like 23 hours a day for X number of weeks to get it done. And that album, like I know the next song that's coming and I anticipate it when I hear one of those songs, and I'm like, wait, no, I don't want to hear this other song. I want to hear the next one on the on the album. And
Yeah,
there's
totally.
something to that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, music, it's life.
Yeah.
I do believe.
This is I'm not a stalker, but I did follow you on Instagram.
I saw.
And I saw an amazing photo. You got a great photo of the Aurora Borealis that just
Oh yeah, did you
happened.
guys catch that?
I saw it, but the way I was coming, I didn't get to see most of it. It was towards the end. So, like, I'm with my son, William, the youngest, and he's like, what's that light over there? I'm like, I guess it's the Aurora Borealis. I didn't find out until later it really was. But
My husband, he's addicted to Facebook, and he is in all of these different Facebook groups, but one of which is like a PA Aurora Borealis. And that's been something on our bucket list for a long time. Like, we had wanted to go to Iceland for our honeymoon, but we ended up kind of putting that on the back burner because I was 8 weeks pregnant when we got married, and I said, I want to be able to enjoy myself when we go, and I can't like sit in a hot springs if I'm got this kid baking in me, and so the Northern Lights was always something that was high on our list, and so that's something that he was hip to, and he was telling me that it's supposed to be coming. Yeah. And I remember we were in the middle of making dinner, and he just like happened to go out to take the trash out. And he calls me and he was like, you have to come outside. You have to look at this. And so he was like, I just want to make sure I'm not tripping. Like, do you see this? And so I went outside. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. And we like abandoned dinner, grabbed my daughter and went out to the front of our property and just watched the photo that I put was, first of all, the naked eye is going to see something differently than what
they said that the iPhone photos and
right, exactly. Any sort of a camera is going to take. The lens, I guess, changes, and then it was kind of doctored a little bit, but it's slightly. I mean, to be honest, but it was just we could see it, like the green glow, the red glow, it just from our front yard. I mean, it was like, I still want to go to Iceland, but it was I don't feel as badly if we don't make it there, because we got to witness the grandeur and just like the majestic, breathtaking beauty of it from our home.
So I missed it, right? Because we're driving, and no.
Yeah, this side of the room missed it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you my story.
Oh, I'm sorry. But along the lines, we had that recent eclipse. I missed that too, because right when it's coming, the clouds rolled up, and I missed that as well.
Yeah, the weather really fucks us here, I would say.
But yeah, to your point, I was we were going to see a lecture at a local college, and so I didn't know about the impending Aurora Borealis, and so we're sitting there and we're getting texts from people saying, check it out, I'm in my backyard, and it just showed up. And we're like, literally, they just announced, and now, and the speaker comes out, and you're like, well, we can't go outside. And then it was like, just as it's ending, everyone's like, well, if you didn't see it, it's over. And
oh,
like,
that sucks. Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, but how was Electra? Or sorry, you said that
it was just it was Terry Gross from Fresh Air on NPR. She was speaking at a local college, so we just went to hear her speak.
Oh, well, but
she was great.
That might have been better than the Northern Lights. You never know.
Well, when we interview Terry, I'll let her know that she was better.
Yeah,
than,
perfect.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm sure that'll make her feel better about it, because she missed it too.
Yeah, exactly. I know you spoke this morning a bit on WFMZ about a lot of your experiences and things like that. And they did ask you about your daughter, if she, wanted to go into the industry. So do you think there is any possibility, or are you like 100% like, I definitely don't want her? And again, just for our audience, to
yeah, no, I mean, listen, I have no idea what the future holds. And if it's something that, like I said earlier, if it's something that she has an interest in and really wants to pursue, then we'll talk about it. But I'm like I also said, I'm not going to go out of my way to get her into it. Yeah. Like I fully believe that kids and individuals should follow their own path of what they want to do. So, if she has an interest in dance, we'll pursue that. She has an interest in a musical instrument, we'll pursue that. If she, likes chess, we'll pursue that. I want her to follow the beat of her drum.
Sure.
I'm not going to push my experiences and the things that I know onto her. With acting, it's like, it's one of those things where, I mean, depending on where you go to school, but generally that's the type of thing that one can start to kind of get a taste for in school. And so if she's interested, great, mazel tov, that's whatever your heart desires. Yeah. But no, I'm not going to encourage her to do it.
So sort of on the heels of that, I mean, obviously she's very young right now. There will come a day in the not so distant future where she'll be potentially watching Christmas Vacation with her friends. And have you sort of played that out in your mind at all of like when they find out that her mom is maybe Sue?
Her sisters know, but she's way too, and it's funny actually because I was sitting on the couch with her. She was watching Ms. Rachel, her favorite show. And I had on my phone, I pulled up the interview so that I could watch it. And it's funny because like kids, even at 19 months, are very familiar with phones and media now, which is like, oh God, kill me. But, I show her videos of herself and, she like sees pictures and, I said, that's Mama, that's Dada, that's, Grammy, that, whoever. And so once I started watching on my phone, she turned her attention away from Ms. Rachel and started watching the thing. And she was like, huh. Oh, yeah, Mama. I said, yeah, that's your Mama. And then it made me think in that moment, like, well, and I'll backpedal a little bit by saying, like, on Instagram and other places where, I have these photos posted of myself in the movies as a young kid, she'll look and I'll say, that's your Mama. And so she's like come to recognize that. Sure. So I thought, God, I wonder what would happen if we, played her the movie now. And it's not as though we would watch the movie without her, like she would be there for it probably unless we were to watch it, after she goes to bed. But it would be interesting to, to like introduce that to her now. And I mean, we could. And, I think cognitively it's going to take a while for her to really wrap her mind around the fact that like my mother is in movies. Yeah, like, right, totally. And my stepdaughters didn't believe me at first when I told them, but then they finally came around. But yeah, I mean, I have not yet formulated a plan around that, but I think it's just going to happen organically.
Yeah, very cool.
It's just, Christmas Vacation is just such a classic movie. They kind of put it in the theaters now every Christmas, and I think it was a couple of years ago I took the family, and we know the movie, we can quote it, and it was just something about seeing it on the big screen and having an audience who's saying the lines, and everybody's laughing. It's just such like a cool, you're the cool kids if you know the movie.
Yeah, totally.
It's a fun experience.
I will say that I have yet to see it in the theater since it came out. But it's funny because I actually today was supposed to have gone out to a screening in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and do an appearance and everything, but unfortunately got canceled. So
no, just say you had to be on Latch-Key.
You are right, totally. But I said, sorry, Kalamazoo. I'd rather stay closer to home and hang out with these guys. But yes, their loss is your gain for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kalamazoo.
Yes, totally. But yeah, no, I've definitely gone and seen other movies. Like, are you guys familiar with The Room?
I haven't seen it. I know of it.
Another like super cult classic where, it's the type of thing like Rocky Horror where, you go and they have like a midnight showing and everybody brings the props and they do all the things. And I mean, I think Christmas Vacation is a little bit different, but, I've definitely been to movies like that where, they're just classic and it's an experience in itself, being amongst a crowd that is having the exact same experience as you, because you're used to watching it on your couch and, the comforts of your own home. Yeah. But, seeing with everybody else that all loves the movie and knows all the lines, it becomes...
It's almost like performance art or something.
Yeah, and it's a shared experience.
Yeah, awesome, most definitely.
Yeah.
So now you're living in the Lehigh Valley, and what are your passions now? What are you most into? What's the valley? Is there anything in the valley that you enjoy? Are there things that you're pursuing outside of, obviously just living in the valley?
Right.
And raising a daughter.
Yes. Honestly, I mean, my daughter, it takes up all of my time and attention.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny because the lifestyle that I live now is a far cry from how it was prior to having kids and being married. So I moved to Pennsylvania, to Philly, like 4 months before the pandemic. And I'd been living in Michigan before that. And, the prior 20 years, I'd moved around a ton. I lived in a bunch of different states and a bunch of different places and cities, and, just was a real nomad and a wanderluster. Mm-hmm. And now I'm, really like tied down and, not going and seeing live music all the time, not traveling, not doing a lot of that stuff, which is fine. I mean, I am more than happy to be a family person now.
Sure.
And I love my husband. I love my daughter. I love my stepkids. And, I'm happy to be here. And the Lehigh Valley is, it's amazing. It's beautiful. But, we don't have much of a community here. So it's tough. Like I really do spend like most of my time just, nurturing my kid and, like taking to the library and doing things like that. But, we don't have a whole like other families that we really hang out with here, which, I'm looking for.
Sure.
But, it's tough because like, how do you make friends when you're older, And I mean, you do it through your kids, really.
That's right.
But she's not in any kind of like public programs where, she's making friends and then you gravitate toward their parents or whatever it is. So, we'll get there. But yeah, so I mean, these days I'm really just focused on her. But I'm the biggest thing was just trying to get her to sleep through the night because, without sleep, like I've been a worthless individual the last like 19 plus months. Yeah. But now, like just since Thanksgiving, we are getting her to sleep and I'm starting to emerge. And, the 2025, I think, has great potential for me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to be totally honest, I'm looking to try to dip my toes back into the acting waters.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, it has to be an organic process. Mm-hmm. But, I finally reached the point where I have said, I think I want this. And I know I want it. And, it has taken me all of these years to be ready to say that. And I have a partner that is supporting us and, he supports what I want to do and I want to help support us too. Sure. So, it's going to be interesting to see what I'm able to do from my daughter's perspective because, I am her main caregiver. And so as she gets a little bit older and the Velcro starts to kind of come apart, we'll see if she is able to allow me to kind of pursue some of these things that I want.
Awesome. When they're old enough to get up and pour themselves a bowl of cereal, you're good to go.
Well, we're a far cry from that, but time passes so quickly. They say.
Yeah.
No, I always joke that like sometimes it feels like the snap of your fingers between a year. And I keep living in the past where like I think my kids are like 11 and they're 16 learning how to drive. And it's like it does go really quickly and. But
and you age too during that time.
The gray beard is sobering.
well, you wear it well, both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I was just gonna say, like the whole experience of being around your kids like that it's just so. You just can't put a price on that. I mean, we both were fortunate enough to work out of our homes before the pandemic, and everybody started working out of their homes, and to see those moments and just be there. And there are those days where, like you said, when you're not sleeping. I mean, I joked with friends that we both have twins. So like it took us, I think, 9 or 10 months to realize maybe them sleeping in the same room isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
And us just being zombies for...
I don't remember the first 6 months of my twins.
I'm sure you don't. Listen, twins are like my nightmare. So I applaud both of you and your partners for being able to do it because that's... Oof. And here's the thing is I was almost 43 when I had my daughter. And so I definitely am not a young mom. And even though I'm healthy and, I have a decent amount of energy, she kicks my ass, it's a lot. And, I'm starting to really see the value in having kids young because you have the physical capabilities to keep up with them. And I'm just like, she she wants to be held a lot. And, you know, she doesn't really like it when I sit down and hold her. And I'm like, dude, it is not going to happen. Like, I physically cannot hold you all day while standing up. So you got to give me the break. But back to your point, Tim, I am beyond grateful that I'm able to have a partner that will hold down the fort for us financially so that I can be home and raise our kid. And, you know, being there to witness all her milestones and to nurture her and to, you know, to teach her and to just watch her grow. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it is such a gift.
It is. Yeah.
It's, you know, I mean, and it's funny because for years I was convinced that I would never have kids. I didn't really want them, but, you know, I lacked a partner that I wanted to do it with. And I wasn't really in the place in my life that it was conducive to. But now that I am a parent, I mean, it completely changes everything. And, you know, I mean, I miss my life. I miss my freedom, you know, I miss all those things, but I mean, I can't imagine my life without her now. And she's my little twin too. Like, you know, I look at her and I'm like, you are such a Latzen. And, you know, I'm like, I know that there's some of your dad in you, but like you are a chip off the old block for sure. And, you know, it's like hanging out with me all day, which is cool, but sometimes not so cool.
Well, if you're looking for a game when you're tired, this was one of my favorites, and that was Dad's going to lay down on the couch, and you guys are going to cover me with pillows.
Oh, there you go.
And then I'll kick him off, and you do it again.
Okay. That's a good one. Yeah, I gotta wait for her to be a little bit older for that one.
Yeah.
But whatever other tips you guys have, I send them my way.
Sounds good.
We tried not to show our kids too much TV, you know, growing up. We really tried not to, but there was these little baby, like Einstein type, not that show, but like, you know, it's classical music with very slow moving images because, you know, babies can't, you're not supposed to show them like, you know, fast images. And it was like we had like a collection, but each one was like 20 minutes. And I would be so tired. I would put it on and I would sit with the twins, right? You know, my HR, and I would fall asleep. And then like the 20 minutes would be gone. I'd be like, let's watch it one more time.
Right, totally.
It's like a snooze button.
Yeah.
I know, it's tough with the TV. I mean, we really made a concerted effort for the first year of her life to try to keep screens away from her. But honestly, I beat myself up about it a lot in the beginning. Like, so I started letting her watch Ms. Rachel, and it actually was really helpful with her. For those that don't know who Ms. Rachel is, she is a YouTuber who is a teacher, and she became famous during the pandemic. She had a son who at 2 was nonverbal, and so she and her husband brought him to a speech therapist, and the tricks that they learned and the skills, you know, she said, this is a market, you know, like other people, you know, we need to bring this to the masses. And so she started out her show, and then the pandemic hit and everybody was stuck at home, and she just blew up. And so, you know, she's like this generation's Fred Rogers and is amazing. And kids, mine included, are just mystified by her. And so she's really amazing. And once Charlotte started watching, like her development started really kind of, you know, hitting the fast lane. And I was like, okay, like this is great. And I felt better about it. And then I was like, you know, like not getting sleep and doing all these things. And she was watching a little bit more TV. And, you know, now I just kind of like plunk her in front of The Simpsons with me. And I'm like, you know, this is all valuable stuff for you anyways. So, and this is how I was raised, and I turned out all right.
Exactly.
So I'm not beating myself up as much.
No.
Yeah, and the same thing for us. I mean, it was no screen, a little bit of screen. Then it was do it. No, sure, you do it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and then because I have the older twins and then I have one younger, you throw everything out. Once the younger one can do whatever they want, watch whatever they want. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm too tired to argue. Just go ahead.
Kids.
Well, on that note, you know, we just want to thank you again so very much for coming on and being a part of a film that is just, you've said it, you know, this morning on WFMZ, millions of people, probably hundreds of millions of people watch and enjoy that film every year. It brings joy to us. We watch it at special times during the year. We quote it the entire season.
It's like a comforting blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I imagine for others, you know, it's like an extension of their family.
Yeah.
the Griswolds.
Absolutely.
Because it's something that everybody can relate to, and
Yeah.
there's humor and there's love, and and I understand why everybody is drawn to the movie, because and why it's so timeless. And obviously I am a Griswold or a Johnson, I guess, technically, but I can understand it from everybody else's perspective too, and I love it myself.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Well, thank you again so very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I am so glad that we had proximity to one another and that we could do this in person, because, I enjoy doing podcast episodes with people, but there's something to be said about sharing space and looking someone in the eye and, shaking hands. And
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can't get enough Latch-Key Dad content? Well, check out latchkeydads.com.
That's right, Greg. On our website, we've got a plethora of photos from each episode, as well as other interesting links to content that we talk about on the show.
Yeah, Tim, I really enjoy all the pictures that you put up there, as they really bring the episode home.
Yeah, I guess I'm not afraid to show those embarrassing photos of my childhood. So, we encourage you to check out the website, latchkeydads.com, for all that content.
Excellent. And if you have a moment, check out our shop page, where we've got really cool keychains for sale. If you don't know what to get your dad for Christmas, the holidays, Father's Day, birthday, check it out. It's a cool gift. Tim, did you know that listeners should like, review, and subscribe to the Latch-Key Dads podcast?
No. But now I know.
No,
Knowing is half the battle.